How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Set 6, and today we're going to be talking about Ever Crisis because, you know, we're real close to the release. It comes out on September 7th, so we've not got long. So I figured we'd jump in, kind of go over everything one more time together and just make sure that we're ready, and do a little bit of speculation about this story that's coming, this original Sephiroth backstory that we're getting with the characters Glenn and everybody else. We'll go over that briefly and we'll look into the details of that. And yeah, like I say, speculate a little bit. Speculate. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for future content so that you don't miss out on all of the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth news, Ever Crisis news, FF16 DLC news, everything. Make sure that you subscribe. But let's crack on. So Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis is a mobile RPG gacha game. Yeah, that's probably the best description for it. And the game itself is going to cover the entire story of Final Fantasy VII's compilation, as well as add in new bits of story here and there. There's quite a bit of stuff to cover. You've got the OG Final Fantasy VII, of course, then you've got Crisis Core, you've got Advent Children, you've got Dirge of Cerberus, and then you've got the two things that I'm looking forward to the most, which is Before Crisis, because we've never had it, and this new original story, because I think there's the possibility of it linking into Remake and Rebirth quite a bit. I think it's maybe going to be used to explain some aspect of what's happening in Rebirth. I'm not too sure. At the very least, it's going to flesh Sephiroth out, and it's going to give us some insight into Sephiroth as a person, because as they say in the trailers that we've seen so far, we don't really know Sephiroth, and we kind of don't. We get a brief glimpse of him really in Crisis Core. You know, we scratch the surface a little bit in Crisis Core, but we don't know his formative years or anything like that. We don't really know anything. So yeah, I'm completely up for getting some backstory. I just hope we don't see any questionable decisions that maybe drag Sephiroth's character down. I don't want to see anything like that, but like I say, I'm looking forward to it because there's a good chance that we'll get something pretty solid out of it. As far as the gameplay goes, it's a very simple turn-based system with like auto battling and things like that. Exactly what you'd expect from a mobile RPG gacha game. If you've played any of them, you kind of know what's coming with Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. And if you've not played them, don't expect it to be in depth like the original Final Fantasy VII systems were or anything like that. The complexity of these systems tends not to be that good. Proven by the fact that you can hit the auto battle button and it'll just win for you. Most of the time. As long as you're not underpowered, you can hit auto battle and you'll probably win. It's all about the story, this really. It doesn't look like it's the most complex of titles, but you know, there should be enough in there to at least be a vessel for the story and be an engine for the story. That's what I'm hoping for. And let's be honest, most of us are going for this because we want to see what kind of story implications come out. Some people are probably going into it to play the original versions of the games, and I'm going to talk about that in a little while. But for the most part, it's the story that people are in it for. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on as much as possible on this channel, probably. Like I say, I will look at the gameplay, we'll see what kind of complexity it's got. If there is any reason to do anything like a hints and tips or a tutorials thing, we might do it, but I can't see it, to be honest with you. We'll see though. Now the game comes out in chapters. I believe they're going to be monthly, each chapter, and I think we won't just get one, I think we'll get a spread of chapters, so we might get one chapter for Crisis Core and one chapter for Before Crisis in 1 month. And then the next month we might get a chapter for Advent Children and a chapter for Dirge of Cerberus. I don't think it's going to be literally one chapter per month. I think they'll maybe give us a bit more quicker. It depends though. It depends how long they want Ever Crisis to run for and how much original content they've got as well. There is also the rumour going around that we're going to get the entirety of Final Fantasy VII on release of Ever Crisis. I don't know how solid this is because this comes from literally one source, which is RPG Site, and apparently someone told James, if I remember correctly, that yeah, the whole of FF7's coming out on release. And everyone just seems to have kind of run with it. I've done a video talking about it previously, you can go check that out. But yeah, I'm not 100% whether or not they'll do this, because like I said in the previous video, they'd be spoiling certain characters such as Cid and Vincent, because in combat of Ever Crisis it uses models from Remake. Therefore we would get the Remake models for Cid and Vincent in a mobile game, and therefore that would be their reveal. I don't know about that. I think they'll wait. I think we'll at least get to Rebirth before that happens. But it remains to be seen. Apparently, James has it on good authority. So we shall see. We shall see. You better not be lying to us, James. You better not be lying. So that's what Ever Crisis is. It's going to be a quick retelling of the original Final Fantasy VII compilation while adding new components to the overall compilation itself. So it's a bit of both. It's got new stuff, it's got old stuff. One thing I will say, I do not feel that this game is a replacement for playing the original versions of the game. From what I have seen, it is quite abridged. Very shortened versions of each section of the story. So yeah, don't replace playing the original games with Ever Crisis. I would recommend that if you've not played Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII, go and play the original Final Fantasy VII. That's my recommendation. Obviously, you can tell me to piss off and say, no, I'm playing Ever Crisis, mate. And that's fine, that's completely up to you. But I would suggest you play the original versions. Even Dirge, although I don't know actually, the gameplay in this might be better. Maybe Dirge is the one instance where it's actually better to play it in Ever Crisis. We'll see. But then, I suppose the only thing left to talk about is this new original story that we're getting, this Sephiroth story. And it seems like it's a story that's going to span a few ages, potentially. It seems like, we're going to get this really young Sephiroth, but then we've also seen Sephiroth looking as he does essentially in Crisis Core. So it feels like it's going to cover from being young, 15, 16-year-old Sephiroth turning up on the Wu-Tai battlefields and wrecking everything. And it's going to go all the way through to the point where we meet Sephiroth in Crisis Core. Maybe even overlap a little bit as well. I've seen a few people suggesting that it potentially overlaps with the part of Crisis Core where Genesis does a runner basically and, deserts from Shinra. So yeah, we might get some overlap with Crisis Core there. But I'm very interested in what's going on in the past with Sephiroth. And not only that, with the 3 new characters that we've got, which is Glenn, Lucia and Matt. I'm very interested in what's going on with their story as well, because it seems like they're going to cover quite a bit of ground. It definitely seems like they're going to cover quite a bit of ground. There's been a few screenshots that have been posted recently on Twitter, Twitter, fuck it, I'm calling it Twitter forever. Yeah, there's been a few screenshots posted on Twitter, and one of them, 3 of them are just like, yeah, cool, screenshots. One of them's pretty interesting though. It shows what seems to be the Temple of the Ancients in the background, and Glenn is saying, heh. Camping with Team Glenn. Not so bad, is it, Professor? Which professor is he talking to there? Is he talking to Gast? Are we going to get to see Gast going through the process of defecting from Shinra, essentially? Because that is what he does. He runs off, he hooks up with the founder and just leaves. Is this going to be the story that fleshes that out? Are Glenn, Matt and Lucia essentially going to be a vehicle for us to just check out these important past events in the Final Fantasy VII compilation that we've not had covered before? I'm kind of getting the feeling that it is. The Professor could be anybody, but I really want it to be Professor Gast, and I really want us to see Professor Gast exploring the Temple of the Ancients. Also, bit weird that the Temple of the Ancients has kind of been spoiled by a mobile game as well, rather than in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but it might not be the Temple of the Ancients, it could be some other ruins that we locate, you never know, but it's got a very Temple of the Ancients vibe to it, so we'll see. Also, at the end of the trailer that came out recently, we see Sephiroth talking to somebody. I'm not sure who that is. I get the feeling that it's probably somebody related to Wu-Tai, but I could be wrong. I do notice in the background behind Sephiroth here, and it's kind of blurred out. I'll put it on the screen now, but you see what looks like Mako and the live stream, or maybe a Mako fire or something like that, because we do see a fire in the background behind, well, in front of the other character, but behind from our perspective. We see it in the background there. So maybe it's just normal fire, but it's definitely got a green hue to it, and it's definitely like little tendrils reaching up. Something weird's going on there. But yeah, that's kind of everything that we know about Ever Crisis so far. There are some details of the story with Glenn and Lucia and Matt, but I think it's just the very first chapter, if I remember correctly. Like, they go to an island and they're checking it for its suitability for a Mako reactor. It's very similar of, if you remember the short story, the investigation unit in the painting, and you've got people being sent out to random locations just to see. and loads of them died, loads of them got killed by monsters and stuff like that. Loads of them ended up being part of the Genova project and the testing that went on. So maybe we see them taking part in something similar to that. Maybe we get a little bit more fleshing out on that angle of the story. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. But we will get all of these answers in the next few days, hopefully. Or at least we'll start getting these answers in the next few days whenever Crisis is finally available to download. It's been a long wait. We've seen First Soldier come and go in the time. But it's finally here. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Are you looking forward to Ever Crisis? Are you pre-registered for it? Which aspect of Ever Crisis are you the most interested in? Very interested to see like what people are playing this for. The bulk of people that I've spoken to seem to be saying the new stuff and Before Crisis. That seems to be the general consensus that I'm getting. Let me know though. Let me know what you're playing for. Don't forget, leave a like on the video, subscribe for future content, do all of the things, but more importantly than anything, have a great day.